Hi, my name is Melissa Giannetti, and I chose to do my subculture topic on students with disabilities and their engagement on campus. I chose this topic because it is something that means a lot to me, and I am a strong advocate for making sure that all students get a great college experience, and I believe that includes getting involved on campus in different clubs and organizations, or athletics, or many other things. I would like to also say that I do not see a disability as a hindrance, but rather a way of seeing things in a different light. The ADA law, or Americans with Disabilities Act, was enacted by the Department of Justice in 1990. This law prohibits discrimination against individuals with disabilities in all areas of public life, including jobs, schools, transportation, and all public and private places that are open to the general public. The purpose of the law is to make sure that people with disabilities have the same rights and opportunities as everyone else. I believe it is important to clarify what this law means, especially for higher education. This law ensures that anyone with a disability is accommodated in the way that they need to be supported. A noteworthy difference between this law in post-secondary education and higher education is that in higher education, an Office of Disability Services is to provide the student with the resources for their success, but this does not guarantee the success of the student. The success is based on the student's willingness to learn and reach out. Some of the literature for students in higher education with disabilities and campus engagement comes from Wagner, Newman, Comito, Garza, and Levine, and they stated in their report from the National Longitudinal Transition Study that approximately only 25% of youth with disabilities participate in post-secondary education after exiting high school. In addition, Cortelia and Horowitz stated that students feel that they cannot make it through higher education without support and encouragement from others. Getting involved on campus allows students to engage in different ways with other students, including finding friend groups and a support system in multiple different capacities. Duda et al. And Jessel et al. Mentioned that education in general, and post-secondary education in particular, is a predictor of gainful employment in meaningful occupations, opening opportunities for career development, hence for quality of life. Higher education is the door to many other opportunities for some students with disabilities, visible and invisible, and they all deserve an engaging higher education experience. I had the opportunity to personally meet virtually with two different students here at Catawba College. The first student, Carl, has an interest in majoring in either psychology or sociology, but is currently undecided. They are a sophomore here at Catawba, and they have a unique story to tell about their life. Born at just 22 and a half weeks old and weighing only 1 pound created issues for the student. He was born with cerebral palsy, and what this looks like for him is walking short distances with assistance from somebody, but not very well. He's wheelchair bound most of the time and has minimal fine motor skills, making it hard to write and type. In addition, there have been incidents in this student's life that caused damage to their vision, and it has become even more blurred. Carl has scar tissue on his lungs from pre-existing conditions, making them a high-risk student and causing them to spend the entire 2020-2021 academic year learning remotely. The Office of Academic Accessibility on Catawba's campus helped Carl get involved by suggesting multiple different clubs and organizations for him to get involved with. One of these clubs was the book club, and as the students spent more time with this group, they realized that they had made friends and created a support system for themselves on campus. Carl reiterated many times how open and accepting the students, faculty, and staff at Catawba College are. This is one of the main reasons that he chose to attend Catawba College. Jason is a transfer business student to Catawba College who decided to attend to play basketball. He had the opportunity to try out, he took the chance, and he made the team. The decision to attend Catawba was solely Jason's decision. He hails from Tennessee, which is about a 4-hour drive from Catawba. Jason has a visual and auditory processing disability and mild dyslexia. He likes to keep his disability quieter, as this is not something that impairs his day-to-day activities. Unlike Carl, Jason is only involved on campus through the basketball team, but despite that, his team has given him a support system and friend group like no other. He stated that basketball takes up a lot of the time in the day, and then schoolwork pretty much takes up the rest. Both students have unique stories to tell, and just listening to them has allowed me personally to have a better understanding of what it means to be a student attending a higher education institution and having a disability. Chickering's 7 vectors highlight just a few key areas that both students face daily. These 7 vectors are part of Chickering's student development theory that deals with the psychological development of college students and their identity development. The first 4 vectors all come together to the 5th vector of establishing identity, which then breaks down into the 6th and 7th vectors. This theory is just one of the student development theories that encourages the establishment of a student's identity. One vector that both students could relate to is that of developing confidence. Chickering noted that there are 3 kinds of competence that develop in college: intellectual competence, physical and manual competence, and interpersonal competence. For the first student, this looked like them joining a book club on campus and engaging in intellectual discussions with others. But for the second student, this looked like using basketball as an outlet to feel like a part of a team and express their passion for the game. Another vector that both students can relate to is movement through autonomy toward interdependence. A key in this vector is that the student is learning how to function on their own and to move away from what others think and become their own self. Chickering stated that developing autonomy culminates in the recognition that one cannot operate in a vacuum and that greater autonomy enables healthier forms of interdependence. The first student must rely on an aide to get from place to place, but that does not hold them back. Over the course of their first year at Catawba, they were able to realize that they can decide where they want to go, when they want to go, and their aide would go with them, and they can create their own life at Catawba. For the second student, this looked like recognizing when they needed a little bit more assistance in the classroom and asking for support. The professor is less likely to reach out to them than it is for the student to reach out to the professor and acknowledge that they need a little bit more assistance. Taking this large step allows the student to become more responsible and more apt to ask for help when it is needed. Students are becoming their own person at college, but it is also on them to recognize that they are now responsible for their future. The concept of disability identity helps others understand the development of students with disabilities, which is crucial to provide access, especially in higher education. Pena et al. Stated that students with disabilities exemplify some of the most dramatic changes for higher education, but with increased enrollment and visibility of students with disabilities, their needs are gaining greater attention from student affairs practitioners and researchers. As Patton et al. Stated, disability identity is a matter of individuals, their environment, and the interactions between the two. For the first student, it is easier for them to explain their disability. They have a visible disability that people see everywhere they go. For the second student, explaining their disability is harder, as it is not a physical ailment that keeps them from doing their daily tasks, but rather something that just affects their schoolwork. In conclusion, it is important that professionals in higher education are creating environments that are engaging for students with disabilities. It is important to address ways in which ableism, the oppression of people with disabilities, shapes the experiences of members of our campus communities. We must recognize all legal aspects and physical barriers for the engagement of students with disabilities, visible and invisible. As professionals in higher education, it should be our goal to make sure all students have the same access to co-curricular activities on campus. When conversations are occurring about multicultural issues, students with disabilities should also be included. This should be an intentional conversation. These two students have unique stories to tell, but they both felt there are still barriers to be broken in regards to students with disabilities, especially with engagement on campus. These are my references. Some of the references listed below are for the pictures, but the majority are for the literature used for research.